From performer to fantasy guru, meet the former porn star turned fantasy sports phenomena. She even has her own radio show. So how does she segue into the world of sports? Here's ABC's Nick Watt.
Mad Dog Sports Radio.
She is the public face of a movement.
First, I'm going to go with a fantasy question. You know, as crazy as this sounds, McFadden has been the strongest on this field right now for the Cowboys.
Breaking down barriers into a world once associated with beery, bearded men. Gentlemen, you can pretend you don't recognize her. Or pretend you're familiar only with her radio work. The truth, this 43-year-old recently switched adult fantasy for fantasy sports. Although nearly a year after she hung up her G-string, she's still one of the top-rated stars on Pornhub.
It was real. Every performer I had sex with, I wanted to have sex with.
Famously portraying the titular heroine of the 2008 hit, Who's Nailin' Palin?
Tow truck.
Well, in the spirit of foreign relations, I'm sure there's no harm in me letting the two of you in.
I admit that I had so much fun shooting the Sarah Palin movie. I rode that wave from 2008 until 2014. I worked myself to the bone because I knew I could wring that dry.
But far more interestingly, from an industry notorious for chewing up and spitting out its stars.
People will tell you, once you've done porn, you're never going to get another job. You're never going to be accepted back into society.
Kansas City also has some strong bats, so I don't know who I'd rather go up against yet. Then
Lisa Ann is a barely plausible success story on Sirius XM Radio.
Monday nights, my show is Lisa Ann Does Fantasy with my co-host Adam Ronis.
Along with the star of the show, adult film star Lisa Ann, will take.
And then on Thursday mornings, I do a fun show called The Morning Men.
Lisa, come on now! Oh!
And they're not changing the name, even though there's a woman involved.
In fact, women are now 1/3 of all fantasy football managers. Staggeringly, that's up from 20% just last year. Millions of women spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year and maybe listening to Lisa Ann for tips.
I think Des is definitely going to get out there. He's running straight. He's not really running well.
She is talking deeply.
Best choice of the day was Phillip Rivers.
That was a great pick.
Knowledgeably.
But they do spread the ball around so much in Philly.
Professionally about fantasy sports on nationwide radio.
And when you're in the radio studio, do you wear sweats, no makeup,
I don't.
unwashed hair?
Here's the thing. I had to be naked so much of my life that you have to understand how happy I am to get to wear clothes.
Nice
so
clothes.
I find that I want to be like wearing scarves and trying new things with my hair. I'm no longer being put in pink fishnet stockings. I mean, I am absolutely thrilled.
For those of you who, like me, don't know what fantasy sports really are, you choose players and score points and win money based on how well they do.
What sport is this?
We're going to do football.
Okay, so we're looking Tom Brady,
Frank
Gore, Emmanuel Sanders, Calvin Johnson, the Gronk, Adam Vinatieri, and the Denver Broncos.
You're just hearing it in your voice, just so much better. We got a lineup, people. We got a lineup.
Yeah, Lisa Ann's past career might have helped land the gig. She started with a radio show interviewing strippers before segueing into fantasy sports. But it's her smarts and sense of humor that keeps it going.
The depornification of my house is happening. Like, I'm just getting rid of stripper shoes. You know, I look at shoes and think...
Same thing happened with Babs.
Now, those two guys and all the sound engineers and everybody, I guarantee you they have looked you up online and they have seen you having sex.
I get it. I put it out there. And I really still want people to enjoy it because it's such a big part of my life.
But sport, it turns out, was her first passion in life. Growing up in small-town Pennsylvania, her folks split up when she was just little.
Our good times revolved around sports. My mom would take us to basketball games. We would watch football games with my dad. Sports were always where we came together and everything was great. So that kind of carried with me. And then I went out as a feature dancer on the road. And by 20 years old, I was traveling alone. And sports became something that kept me company. When I would come home from a gig, I could go and check who won tonight.
Her new career has her dividing time between New York and LA, where her apartment is filled with memorabilia.
This is the World Series played ball that I was telling you about that's signed by Derek Jeter.
It does look like a guy lives here.
It does look like a guy lives here, I know. This is Terrell Owens. Here's a Michael Jordan ball. And then in here is a trading card from my childhood sports collection.
Memorabilia from her different lives.
So on the way up to my bedroom, I thought the very last landing would be a good place to scare guys. and put all of my awards right here. This is your last chance to bail on this situation.
Yeah, that, okay.
It's mean, right?
Adult Nightclub Exotic Dancer Award winner.
Hall of Fame, this is a big award for ABN.
She is, at the moment, single.
Your past career, I mean, I imagine that would sort of entice guys to be with you, but, you know, does it put some people off in terms of wanting to actually marry and settle down?
Of course. People want to be with you, but not be with you.
I would have trouble just because I think, my God, you know, I'm sure I'm not doing this right. I'm sure, you know, that's the whole...
You're so right. That's the normal male thought process when it's starting to happen. It is very different for people to understand that sex in alone is never going to be the same as on camera. Because alone, you're able to be intimate. You're able to be close to each other. You don't have to open up so the camera can shoot in this angle right here.
And you don't have a dude like Steve with the sound boom.
And you know what else? Steve, the sound boom guy, is eating a sandwich over there while you're doing your scene, because that's his one break. And I think doing porn made me appreciate intimacy a lot more than probably other people.
That was then. This is now.
So that was a good play, right?
was a good play.
He threw the ball and he caught it.
Yep. And they're
Job
moving the
done.
chains. They're moving the chains. They're getting the ball down.
I'm Nick Watt for Nightline, on a couch being taught football
But
A
the
lot of
quarterback stays on the whole time,
Whole
right?
time.
by a retired porn star.
And the kicker kind of...
Lisa Ann even taught our own Nick Watt how to make his own fantasy team. Head to our Nightline Facebook page to watch.